The race for the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office, 1 year away. Two Democrats battling to unseat the long-term Republican incumbent.
I feel strongly and have felt strongly for quite some time that we need a new generation of leadership in order to transform and to fix a broken justice system.
The prosecutor's office is about leadership. It's about actual leadership. It's about relationships and relationship building.
I believe it takes great experience to understand how powerful this office can be, how it can really affect the community and people's lives.
In this edition of Let's Talk Cincy, the men who want to be Hamilton County's top lawyer.
From WLWT, this is Let's Talk Cincy.
We are less than a year away from Commitment 2020, when you'll go to the polls to make very critical decisions. Welcome to Let's Talk Cincy. I'm Alexis Rogers.
And I'm Curtis Fuller. You know, while the presidential election is the marquee race in 2020, there are important local races as well, and one is the Hamilton County Prosecutor's race.
Two Democrats and the incumbent Republican are fighting for your vote.
Three candidates with three impressive backgrounds and different approaches. Joe Deiters is seeking re-election for his Republican-backed office.
When I was state treasurer, I got a chance to go around in the state of Ohio and see other prosecutors' offices, other police departments, and I can tell you, and I don't take credit for this, I give it to my assistants. I clearly believe that we have the best prosecutor's office in the state of Ohio.
Former municipal court judge Fidel Rucker and first-time candidate and former federal prosecutor Gabe Davis will go head-to-head in the March Democratic primary.
But what we're talking about is essentially the managing partner of the largest law firm in the county. I mean, that's what the county prosecutor is. It is the managing partner of a civil division and a criminal division with several layers. I think it's helpful when someone has demonstrated relationships and leadership as they move through the ranks to get to that position.
Whether it be their stance on issues like investigation methods, bail, or the death penalty, all are adamant about being chosen to fight for the rights for the people of Hamilton County.
There are other cases as well where people have lost confidence in our system of justice because we are not pursuing the things needed in order to fix that, to give people that assurance that they'll be treated fairly.
Between their experiences and their messages, all three are under the microscope in this race for Hamilton County Prosecutor.
Present a new vision for professionalism, for good government, for ethics, and for a prosecutor's office that really reflects the community that it serves and doesn't seek to merely divide us.
You got to do what you think is right. And you got to be able to look yourself in the mirror every day and just say, you know, I've done unpopular things. I'm going to do what I think is right.
I'm talking about why this is the most effective, why this is the most successful, and why this is actually the most qualified candidate in this race overall.
Now, of the two men who want to change the face of the prosecutor's office, one has actually run this race before. You might remember back in 2004, Fidel Rucker ran for prosecutor at that time as a write-in candidate against Joe Deiters.
And this time, Rucker believes he's the right man for the job.
Fidel Rucker was most recently known as a Hamilton County Municipal Court judge for the past 12 years.
I love being a judge. I mean, I absolutely loved every day. Never had bad days. But it was restricting. Being a judge is muzzling. There's certain things that you like to see or that you like to talk about that you simply can't.
Rucker's originally from Gary, Indiana. He went to UC Law School and was appointed by Governor Ted Strickland to the municipal court. He also once served as assistant prosecutor for the city. I
said, you know what, if not now, when? If not me, then who? This is the perfect opportunity. We have an opportunity here that I couldn't pass up.
Now he's running for prosecutor. This is his second time running.
It's not a confining judgeship. It's an advocate for the community as a whole when you're the prosecutor. It's an advocate for victims. It's an advocate for the system. It's an advocate for law enforcement. My first race that got me into politics 15 years ago was the race for prosecutor. That race was exciting, it was interesting, it was engaging, but it was about real issues about our criminal justice system and how, in fact, people can or cannot have the ability to trust it. I started my career as a prosecutor, and I was the primary prosecutor for some municipalities. I know what it is to understand litigation and how important it is for lawyers to understand and prepare for what they're actually going to do. But I also understand, to a very real degree, leadership. That people care about your authenticity. They care about your examples of leadership.
He recently took a new gig with the Cochran firm.
Still just being engaged, now I can be engaged more. Now I can be an advocate outside. I don't have the restrictions that I had as a judge. And my current job at the firm that I'm at allows me to do that. I mean, they encourage me to do that. They want me to do that. And that's what I enjoy. Before I got on the bench, I was a civil rights lawyer, an employment discrimination lawyer, and housing discrimination. I did civil litigation representing companies and businesses and class action in federal and state court. Went on the bench and focused my energies on helping to deal in that particular arena.
Rucker says relationship and understanding are key to show real change in the prosecutor's office.
The prosecutor's office is about leadership. It's about actual leadership. It's about relationships and relationship building. And again, what we're talking about, at least from my perspective, is doing everything that we can as lawyers, as legal professionals, as elected officials to help build trust in the system. Well, in order to build trust in the system has to be responsive to, understand the needs of, and actually care about the community in a lot of different ways.
His focus, he says, it's on the people the office serves.
What we have currently is what we've always had. One of the things I talk about is that our systems, the education system, the healthcare system, the political system, the criminal justice system, the court system, those were all systems that were designed during a time when our country was believing certain things and acting a certain way and was a certain size. As our world has changed in the most drastic ways, our systems still consist of the same elements when they were actually created. We have to reconsider how we're operating our systems.
Rucker says change starts in changing prosecution methods, the way bonds work, and the type of cases the office pursues.
Pursuing the death penalty under circumstances where financially it's not feasible, or whether it's inequitable according to state rules and state commissions, and even the person who drafted our death penalty statute here in Ohio. The way that we look at the cases that we prosecute and the way that we do plea bargains, all of those things, the way that we've been doing them as part of the system, have to be reconsidered in view of the fact that our world has changed. The way that we look at crime, punishment, the way that we look at treatment, all of those things have to change in order to best meet the needs of the people. And my prosecutor's office would absolutely look at the best ways to proceed.
Well, this conversation is definitely not over. A conversation with the other Democrat who wants to be Hamilton County's next prosecutor.
Up next, why Gabe Davis believes his experience as a former federal prosecutor makes him qualified for the office.
Hi there and welcome back. Former federal prosecutor Gabe Davis is running as a Democrat for Hamilton County prosecutor. He'll have to get past fellow Democrat Fidel Rucker in a primary before facing incumbent Joe Deiters.
And he tells us his experience on the federal level makes him uniquely qualified for this office.
You know, I feel strongly and have felt strongly for quite some time that we need a new generation of leadership in order to transform and to fix a broken justice system. So I was a prosecutor myself for 7 years up until recently here. And I handled cases in some of the toughest courtrooms in the country. So I was a prosecutor at the Manhattan DA's office after graduating from Harvard Law School. After the Manhattan DA's office, I went on to join the Department of Justice under President Obama. And I worked in the Civil Rights Division, and I prosecuted federal crimes, things like hate crimes and other official misconduct cases, like obstruction of justice and things like that. What I've come to learn over the course of my time as a prosecutor is that our system of justice is badly broken, and we need reforms to make us safer, but also to make the system more just.
What would you see are the main things that you would like to see changed in the prosecutor's office?
Sure. So I think what we need to have is a prosecutor who is engaged in reforming the system. I think there are things like our bail system that need to be fixed. Right now we're locking up people, oftentimes for low-level nonviolent offenses. It's not making us any safer. It's costing us a lot of money. And it's taking people out of the communities that are often poor and they're not able to get out simply because they're poor, out of jail. And I think that's wrong. And again, this is not making us any safer. It's costing us a great deal. And so I think that needs to be fixed, not only to ensure that we are positioned to succeed and to devote resources toward the things that matter, but also because it's going to increase confidence in our system of justice. Of a prosecutor that oftentimes says things that are reckless and that puts not only prosecutions in jeopardy, but also prejudices defendants that have trials and have cases before the prosecutor. So we need someone that's going to approach the job with ethics, with integrity, someone that's going to engage full time in solving these problems and making us more safe and reforming a broken justice system. And I think those things are going to move us a long way toward the future. That's what I intend to do as prosecutor.
Your challenge is name recognition.
Well, I'll say certainly name recognition is a challenge in any race, and a challenge with the first-time candidate, which I am. I'm a first-time candidate. But I think my status as a first-time candidate is an asset. I think it's a strength rather than being a liability. I think people are hungry for outside leadership, for new approaches, for fresh thinking, and that's what I am. I'm an outsider in this race. I'm not a politician. I haven't been doing this my entire life in terms of being a politician. I've been a prosecutor for my career, and so we're going to have to work hard to make sure that we're getting our message out. But I think at the end of the day, people are going to resonate, and people are going to gravitate towards someone who offers a fresh approach, offers a fresh face for solving some of these problems, and someone who represents a new generation of leadership on these issues. And I think it's going to be a net positive for us at the end of the day that I'm not an insider in this race. So we always expected that there might be a primary. I can't necessarily say that we expected that it would be from Judge Rucker, but that's okay. I respect his record of service in this community, certainly. But I felt strongly when I got into this race back in July, and I feel strongly today that it's time for a new generation of leadership to take on these issues, and that people really hunger for fresh approaches, for fresh faces, for people that have unique perspectives. And I have a passion for this city and for this county that's born of having been from here, having deep roots and deep ties here. My father was a police officer in Cincinnati for 16 years. My mother manages a Head Start program in Bond Hill, so service is in my blood, and I have a passion for this community, always have. And I think that's going to carry me through to the finish line, that strength, that passion.
Up next, Joe Deiters has been Hamilton County's top prosecutor for many years.
What he wants to accomplish in another term in office. Welcome back to Let's Talk Cincy. For nearly 30 years, Joe Deiters has been a very familiar face in the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office.
You know, at one point, he was the new kid on the block, you might say, working alongside legendary Sheriff Simon Lease. Well, Joe Deiters stepped away from the prosecutor's office for about 6 years to take on a state job, but then he returned back here to Hamilton County to his old job, one he hopes to hold on to for a little bit longer.
Cy's focus was always on, really focused on pornography. I mean, his battles with Larry Flint were legendary. And when I came in '92, my focus immediately became violent crime. And unless the stuff involved kids, I really don't care what people look at. It doesn't bother me. Whatever they want to do is fine. I'm not the moral compass of the community. But children is a different story. And violent crime became my focus and the focus of my office.
I would imagine you would have never anticipated youth violence at the level it is now.
It's amazing. I mean, I hate to date you, but when you and I were growing up, you met after school for a fist fight. Now they pull out knives or a gun or something like that, and they shoot at each other. And it's really quite frightening. I mean, the things you see, like in neighborhoods, they have a community gun. They leave it, you know, in a mailbox or under a bench. So if you need the gun, you can find it and get it. And it's really quite sad to deal with some of the moms with this kind of violence. And it tends to be, obviously, in our poor neighborhoods, African American. We had, I think it's 5 or 6 years ago, we had over 70 murders, and we had no white victims, none. They're all African American. And it's really sad. And that's why I've made statements before in the past that why should we put up with this? Why should these communities put up with this level of violence?
What's been your biggest challenge over the past nearly 3 decades? I mean, just to say 3 decades that's a long time.
Long time. You know, our biggest challenge, first of all, this is a big office. We've got 125 lawyers, probably 70 support personnel. When I got here, I had run the clerk's office, which had 350 employees. The administration of an office that big is a challenge. It really is. I like trying murder cases. I mean, that's where I enjoy my profession. But I have this administrative end that if you're not experiencing that, my gosh, it can be almost nightmarish.
Even after this length of time, you still have to convince people to vote for you, to hold on to your job. Why do you want to continue doing this?
I think that the office is going down a great path right now. If you talk to the victims we interact with on a daily basis, I started the first victim witness program in the county's history, one of the few in the state at that time. And we're making a difference in people's lives. I'll give you another quick example. You know, sometimes I'm sure you know someone in your life, maybe you do yourself, where someone lost someone suddenly by a heart attack or for whatever reason. Could you imagine if somebody was responsible for that? Somebody took them from your life and they were able to deliver some measure of justice for that family. And there's a great deal of pride I get in being able to do that. It sounds selfish, but I feel, it makes me feel very good that this office can do that for people in the worst possible circumstance. And we do it every day, every single day. But I learned very early on, Curtis, that you got to do what you think is right. And you got to be able to look yourself in the mirror every day and just say, you know, I've done unpopular things. I got people that, even though I didn't handle the case, they're still mad at me about Tracy Hunter. They're police officers that are still mad at me about Ray Tenzing, trying that police officer for shooting Sam DeBose. You're going to have people not like some of your decisions, but if you in your heart feel it's the right thing to do and you can sleep at night, I remember one time I was with President Bush, George W. Bush, and we were talking about politics generally. And he said to me, just do what you think is right, okay? He said, because if I can't get elected doing what I think is right, I don't want to be elected. It makes your life a lot simpler. Instead of reading polls and seeing what you should say and things of that nature, what a lot of politicians do. I'm going to do what I think is right. If I can't get elected doing what I think is right, then that's the voter's choice.
When Let's Talk Cincy continues, final thoughts from the men who want to be Hamilton County Prosecutor.
What they want you to know about them and why they want your vote.
Hi there and welcome back. We have a long way to go in the Hamilton County Prosecutor's race.
We'll hear plenty from these three candidates during the campaign, but we wanted them to share some closing thoughts.
From the March Democratic primary to the big November 2020 election, the Hamilton County Prosecutor's race is full steam ahead. Some are even calling this to have the potential of being Hamilton County's most expensive race. Newcomer Gabe Davis made it clear he had no desire to drop out and tends to put his best foot forward for the March primary.
To me, it just reinforced that it's time for a change, and that we have a problem where there's a system of justice that's badly broken, that strength, that passion, and also having a unique perspective, having been someone who has spent the majority of his career as a prosecutor for 7 years. So I have a unique perspective that is necessary in order to engage the community on these issues.
Deiters believes in the work he's been able to do while in office. He says his office has the capacity to best care for the county.
When you get young prosecutors in your office, when you first bring them in, we have to stress constantly that we're not here to just win. That's not the idea. It's to seek justice for people. And it's really not about winning. It really isn't. It's about doing what's right for the community. There's a great deal of pride I get in being able to do that. It sounds selfish, but I feel, it makes me feel very good that this office can do that for people in the worst possible circumstance. And we do it every day.
Rucker says from his experience as a judge, lawyer, and prosecutor, it's time for a systematic change.
I think that there are some important features that can be added to a prosecutor's office. Again, talking about building trust in the community. People want to see that the things that you promise, you actually have a history of providing. Certainly we know that the demographics of our county has changed in the past 20 years to a significant degree. We do know that there's been some very public stories that have caused more people to be aware and engaged in who's in leadership in the prosecutor's office and how they proceed.
It's so interesting to see all three of them in a space where they really talk to folks about what they believe.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, it's hard to believe it's a year away, but that time will go by so rather quickly. And of course, we'll be hearing much more from them on this program and of course on our newscast. It'll be interesting to follow this through the primary and then the general election next November.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Let's Talk Cincy. We want to hear from you, of course.
Now, you know, you can email us your ideas at ltc@WLWT.com. You can also see full episodes and stories from Let's Talk Cincy by just going to the menu tab on WLWT.com and then click on Let's Talk Cincy.
And of course, we're going to see you next week for a whole nother Let's Talk Cincy. And I like having these conversations. I think we'll continue to have them, especially with you.
Well, that does it for this edition of Let's Talk Cincy. Have a great day, everyone.